What's going on, beautiful people? So today I wanted to talk to you guys about spiritual gifts because this is something that I'm super passionate about, and I've been getting certain questions and reflections that I wanted to speak into and address that I thought would be useful for you guys. You know, Part of where the inspiration for this video is coming from is I was speaking to someone and they said something interesting to me. They said that, how on some level they could sometimes envy people like myself who were born with certain gifts and who have access to certain things seemingly so easily. And there could be a little bit of an envy there. And so I thought that was an interesting comment to receive. And I wanted to speak into that and much more because from my perspective, your spiritual gifts are one of the most important things that you can possibly learn about, simply because your spiritual gifts are your birthright. They are your divine inheritance, and they are what allow you to more easily navigate reality in the world. They help give you perspective when you're in times of struggle or when you're just wanting to navigate yourself. They give you a greater sense of compassion and self-responsibility and empowerment in navigating your life. And they're your birthright. And beyond all of that, it's magic. It feels like and is real magic in every way, shape, and form. And also one of my definitions of magic, or the truths about magic, is that magic is the nature of existence. So of course it's magic. Everything is really magic at its core. But let's not go too far off on that tangent. And let me speak to you about spiritual gifts over here. So yes, it's true that I was born in this incarnation with certain gifts. I was born very clairvoyant, able to see certain things that people can't see, such as angels and energy and beings and whatnot. And I was born with a gift that is similar to what you might call mind reading. I've always been able to see into people's minds, not in the way that you might think, not like, okay, tell me what I'm thinking. I'm thinking a sentence. It's not how you might think. It's more in the sense of being very sensitive to and being able to pick up on the subtle vibrations that the different levels of your mind give off, and picking up on that translate into language for me. So for example, this used to cause me a lot of pain as a kid because, I didn't know that this was a gift. I thought that this is how everybody was. And, I would have instances, where people would come up to me and be like, hey, like, what are you doing there, David? But I would hear in the back of their mind, I would feel the vibration of, what's wrong with you, David? They're asking me because they actually have an agenda and they think something's wrong with me. So I was hearing that and feeling that and experiencing this double talk very often as a kid. And I couldn't understand what was wrong with people or with me. And it was often in the form of a judgment towards me. It was often like, he's a weird kid. What's wrong with him? Why is he like that? Because I was a different kind of kid, but like, just because I was quiet, like I was to myself. I was very inward. But since so many people were just in their head thinking judgments of me and wondering what's wrong with me, it made me start to look for a problem inside myself that was never there. And that is suffering. To look for a problem that does not exist obsessively causes suffering. So it caused me pain. And so, yes, I was born with certain things. I did also go through a forgetting period. I did go through an amnesia period. I would say more so in my teens, maybe around the ages of like 14 or so, somewhere between 12 or 14, when I wanted to start fitting in with people. When I really wanted to fit in with people and be like other people, that was like me saying, my authentic self, my soul's personality is not good enough. I'm going to shift onto a different radio station where my gifts don't exist. And so I just started to develop ego and identity and tried to be like this and be cool and macho and whatnot. And I went off of my soul's radio station onto my identity station and lost touch with my gifts and went through a forgetting period because I didn't know that I did this radio station switch, right? So I forgot about this being my true self. And then I forgot that I forgot, which is what amnesia is. So I did go through a forgetting period. I did go through a period of my life where, I wasn't, although I was always a very positive person and I had certain perspectives on reality or whatnot, I don't know if I would have considered myself a spiritual person in my younger years. Um, yeah, I was open to things, but like I was also very skeptical. I remember when my friends would tell me about people who could feel energy and read energy and astral project, I thought they were nuts. I thought they were talking shit. And also, being that I was an illusionist, a street magician, and I learned how to, as a magician, you learn how to mimic psychic ability through trickery. It's very common to adopt the belief that all psychic ability is trickery because you can do it through trickery. And so I was very skeptical. And, while I kind of believed in psychics, I only believed that psychics were like these people who lived in caves that, there's just 1% of the world who's psychic and that you have to find them in a cave somewhere or something like that. I didn't think that they were in my own city, let alone I didn't think that I was psychic or that we were all psychic. So there were a lot of things I didn't know and I had a lot of arrogance. So all that to say that I did go through my forgetting period like most of us do. The one thing that never went away from me was the mind reading, but I just didn't know I was doing it. So in my younger years, in my 20s, I would totally use it for manipulation without realizing it. Be it like if I was flirting with a woman or something like that, I would know and see how she's thinking, and I would know what kinds of things to say that would turn on certain lights and spark certain things in order to have the connection I might be looking for. Or, it might be in trying to get into a club or something like that. I just knew things without knowing how I know, and I didn't stop to think that it was something different. So that never went away from me. And I only learned that I had this gift when I was 25 years old, when I met my first psychic. And this is still when I didn't know if I believed in psychics. I was just being open to experience. And her name was Micheline. And what she told me was, one of the things she told me was, remember, she's like, make sure you don't use your mind reading abilities for manipulation. And I was like, what mind reading abilities? And she's like, well, you could see into people's minds. And I said, uh-huh. And she's like, not everyone can do that, right? And I was just like, whoa. Like it was this moment of like, what do you mean? What do you mean not everyone could do that? And she just made this distinction for me. And when she pointed it out, I had no idea. But in that moment, what it gave me is I looked back on my life in an instant, and it just made sense of all these things that I went through that I didn't know were because of this gift. The thing that was my greatest pain all of a sudden became this blessing, because what I realized in that moment through our conversation and my own realization was like, oh, I could use this to help people, because there's certain things that people can't see in their mind. So when I sit in front of someone and I'm, let's say, offering a session and they're feeling stuck or have a problem or have a desire, I can see certain things light up in your consciousness that you can't see. And because I could see it and feel it, I could lead you into the feeling of it so that you could align with it as well and have the shifts and breakthroughs that you want. So that was a big moment for me. And where this ties into you guys and why I'm talking about spiritual gifts and how, while yes, I was born with certain things, I did also go through a lot of training. I went through a lot of training and a remembering, and this is where it applies to everybody. See, in January 2012, it was actually exactly on 1/11/2012, and 1/11 signifies new beginnings. There was a synchronicity that happened in my life where I met someone who would end up becoming a mentor of mine at the time. And he was the person who took me under his wing and showed me first how to balance my own ego, because I was a very arrogant and cocky person back then. So he showed me how to balance my own ego and showed me that it was possible to release insecurities, because I didn't know that was possible. I thought they were things that you just had to live with in your life. And after I balanced out a little bit more and I humbled down, then he brought me into a training where he showed me and a group of other people how to awaken our dormant gifts through very simple practices. And so this is the part that I want to talk to you guys about, because I want you to know that it's actually very simple and easy and practical to develop and awaken and enhance and reveal your spiritual gifts, and that it is your birthright and it is essential to your growth and ascension as a being on this planet. Because like I said, it gives you a greater sense of empowerment, responsibility, compassion, so on and so forth. And it's fun. It's magic. So what I got led through, I'm going to give this in a nutshell, was certain activations that can be done in the meditative state, very practical activations, and some of which I have on my YouTube. I'll tell you all this stuff after so that you could try it out. Excuse me. I got led through certain activations which served to resensitize places inside myself that I had numbed out as a child because I didn't know how to deal with certain feelings. So I numbed things out like we all do. So this served to resensitize places that I've numbed myself out on the inside. And as a side effect of that, that turned on the lights, so to speak, very, very quickly. This happened from the very first activation for me personally. For others, it took a little bit more time. I guess I was just in that readiness point. But from that activation, what happened, now it was like the engines were on, and I was feeling and sensing the world in a different way, but I still didn't fully remember how to use my energetic senses and be flexible in them. So that's what the training was all about, was learning the different energy mechanics, the different subtleties of energies, and how to play with energy and to tap into someone's mind at will, and to learn their likes and dislikes, or their blockages, or their next expansion point, just through intuition, without conversation, you know. And so through that activation, suddenly I was able to perceive spirit guides, which felt like discovering a whole new world for the first time. I was, you know, energy healing, all that kind of stuff. We learned the mechanics and the tools and the modalities. So that was the beginning of my training. And a lot of this had to do with step one, returning back to my soul station, as I call it. And so I want you to think of it as this quote: the sooner you let go of who you think you need to be, the sooner you become more of who you truly are again, right? So the sooner you let go of who you think you need to be. So let's imagine that radio station in your consciousness. Let's say this is your soul's radio station. And this is when you're born, before you feel like you need to conform or be someone you're not. You're just your purest, truest, authentic self. So you're on your soul station and you're in tune with your gifts. Then you go through things and you feel like you need to be more guarded and more tough and more serious and more proper and more professional, and don't cry and don't be playful, and you know, all these things, and you become someone that you're not. So the idea, the step one to reclaiming your birthright, your soul's gifts, is to let go of who you think you need to be so that you can naturally become more of who you truly are again. A great way to start doing this is to take a piece of paper, just draw a line down the middle. On the left side, you're going to write who I think I need to be. And on the opposite side, you're going to write who I truly am. And just do this exercise with yourself. It'll take 5, maybe 10 minutes. And just write, okay, I think, or I feel like I need to be tough and serious and quiet, and stern and professional, and whatever these things are. And the beauty of being in a world of duality is that as soon as you identify who you think you need to be, you're automatically going to know who you truly are, because you're going to feel it if you're open to feeling these things. And so just by doing this exercise, you can begin to identify, make conscious the unconscious, and let go of all the parts of you that you don't need to be, that are not you. And you'll start to go back to your soul station very, very quickly. Now, there will be certain character traits that might be wrapped up in emotional beliefs or trauma that might be harder to let go of, and that might take a little bit more self-exploration and perspective, but that's okay. At least now you have a path. Okay. So that's step one, is you want to create the soil for yourself and get back onto your soul's radio station. So from there, what happened is, and I'm going to remind myself to give you all the resources at the end of this video so that you can actually go and do these things. But what happened from there is I got trained very quickly and I rose very quickly in my gifts. Like, it came super naturally and effortless to me because I realized we weren't learning anything new. We were just remembering what was most natural to us that we forgot. So it came super naturally and effortlessly to me. And what I most loved about it is it felt like I was finally learning real magic. And it literally is real magic to be able to do these things. And what most inspired me to pay it forward, because after I went through my training, which lasted, I think, a couple months or something like that, at least that very intentional training, I was so inspired by how simple and practical it was to do these things. Like, it's really just these simple little shifts that you do on the inside. And I was so inspired by it that all I wanted to do was pay it forward. And I knew in my heart, like, this is what I meant to do for the rest of my life. I meant to show people how to connect to their gifts and wake them back up, because not only is it showing people real magic, but in order to reclaim your spiritual gifts, you have to become a better person. And that's the part that I loved, because in order to reclaim your magical gifts, you have to become a more compassionate, more open-hearted, more humble, more pure intentioned, more playful person, so that you get to that radio station of your gifts. And so by you doing these things, by you learning these things, you're becoming a more compassionate person and better person. And so it makes the world a better place, because obviously you're going to act in better ways. And now you have a greater way of perceiving the world, you have magic, and you're helping the planet. So there's nothing more inspiring to me than showing people these things because of what it does for the world. This is what tunes you into your shine. This is what connects you to your inner shine, which is your mastery. That feeling of your shine inside, that spark, that feeling that you feel inside of, I know I'm here for a reason, that feeling is your mastery. So the more you tune into it, the more you remember your mastery and you awaken to the reality of all your gifts, and you realize that you can do some doper things than you ever thought possible. So that was the beginning of my path. It was learning the mechanics, learning the tools, learning the modalities, and going through the training to remember the psychic and mystic that I am. And then something unique happened. So after a couple of years, about 4 or 5 years in of training with this dude, I got to a point in my life where we created something called the Life Center in Montreal. And life stood for Lessons in Finding Enlightenment. And so essentially the Life Center, it was a space where I was kind of being like Professor Xavier from the X-Men. I was finding all these people who didn't know they were gifted, or who knew they were gifted and didn't know how to control it, and showing them how to better use their gifts. So I was mentoring mentors, psychologists, life coach, therapists, you name it. And what happened during that training, and this is where things get interesting, is that everything that I was teaching them, first of all, went amazing. Like, everyone was able to access their gifts, because again, it's your birthright, it's who you are. But the interesting thing that happened is that I realized a couple months into the training that everything I was teaching them was stuff that I was taught by my mentor, but there was nothing of my own I had to offer. Meaning, once I taught them what I had been taught, I was out of my bag of tricks. I had nothing else to offer them. And that frustrated me, because that made me realize that even though I'm very masterful in what I've been taught, I'm not in my mastery, because a master is someone who can create, a master for one is one who can call forth the mastery in you and tune you into your unique mastery, and someone who is not limited by modality but can create infinitely and even create other modalities to get whatever needs done. So that frustrated me. I had a frustration where I'm like, okay, now that I know that these things are real, Now that I know that magic is real, spiritual gifts are real, and that it's not bullshit, I've had enough years of experience and I understand the mechanics and the science of it. How would I have discovered these things if it was never taught to me? That question is what opened up these doors of synchronicity, where about a week after I asked that, oh, my foot is falling asleep. So a week after I asked that, it was near, was it October 1st? No, it was end of September 2015. I was at my country house and I had a moment where I was in meditation with my girlfriend at the time. And in my meditation, I'm going to give you the short version of the story. I connected with an aspect of myself that I had long forgotten and I didn't even recognize when I first saw. And this aspect inside of me, I was in meditation, and all of a sudden, generally when I'm meditating, it's not super visual. It can be, but it's not like HD visual like some people have. Like I'm more see-through feeling. You know, I have a clairvoyant heart. You know, I see through my third eye, but I have a very clairvoyant heart. So I see the feeling structure of information, which is what allows me to communicate things to you in such a way that you can feel it. So it's not normally so HD, but for whatever reason, in this meditation, as my eyes were closed and I went into this space, all of a sudden, this HD scene unraveled in front of me, which looked very much like the scene in the movie, the old Disney movie Aladdin, the cartoon version, where Princess Jasmine is on that balcony. So it was that scenery. And so I saw that scenery, but instead of Jasmine, I saw an aspect of myself on the balcony. And I was like, and I went up to that part of me in my inner vision. And I was just like, oh, I'm like, who are you? I'm like, you're an aspect of me. Like, who are you? And he was just like, it's okay, man. He's like, you made your choice. He's like, you could just go on and move on with your life. It's okay. And I was just like, I was surprised because I just got rejected by a part of myself. And normally when you find soul fragments, it happens very instantly. So I was like, no, I'm like, of course I want to know who you are. I'm like, who are you? I'm like, and he's like, it's okay, man. He's like, you made your choice. He's like, just go on with your life. So I looked a little deeper at him with my eyes and with my heart. And suddenly this memory came back and I realized, I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, aren't you that aspect of me that when I was a kid, you used to help me? Like we used to play that the floor was lava and I would literally see the floor is lava, or I would play monsters and I would have these monsters to duck and dodge and play games with. And when I would go to sleep at night, I would create my dreams. In every dream, I was Leonardo the Ninja Turtle, son of God, which meant I had all the magic powers in the world. And April O'Neil was my girlfriend. I'm like, weren't you that part of me that I would do those things with? And all of a sudden he looks at me, he's just like, you do remember me. I'm like, bro, I'm like, I have literally been looking for you my entire life. You're the reason why I even got interested in spirituality, because I was trying to find that part of myself. And he's just like, yeah, he's like, you abandoned me for your best friend Danny when you were 6 years old, because Danny thought you were weird for the ways that you would play in your world and the things that you would see, and you wanted to fit in with him. And so you abandoned me so that you can have connection with Danny. And then you forgot about me. And I was just like, dude, I'm like, I had no idea. I was a kid. I didn't even realize that's what happened. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I'm like, by the way, I'm like, what's your name? And all of a sudden he turns into this golden ball of light and just says, magic. And I was just like, I can't tell you the feeling that I had in that moment of finding the magic that I was looking for inside myself and realizing that it was an aspect of me, that I am the magic that I had been looking for. And so we had this moment and I just got it. And then he's like, open your eyes. And so I opened my eyes out of the meditation, and still, even though my eyes were open, hovering in front of me was the golden ball of magic, like a full-on hallucination, but real. And he would not stop talking. It was like a best friend I hadn't seen in 20 years because I was about like 25 at the time. And he was just telling me all these stories of like what things have been like, and has his own intelligence, own personality, all these things, telling me all these stories. I'm reconnecting. And then I asked him, I'm like, okay, now that you're back and we have this connection, what's our purpose together? And he said, to make magic normal again. Because every single person on the planet has a magic inside of them that most people have amnesia for, that they forgot. That they might remember playing lava on the floor or monsters or Barbies and having these worlds as a kid. But most people don't remember that there was an aspect and intelligence creating that for them, right? Like when you would play monsters or whatever you would play, you didn't have to consciously put where the monsters were or how things were going to go. You just decided you were going to play monsters, and then you had a world to respond to. Well, that aspect of yourself that created that world is your magic. That was your best friend. And so what my magic was explaining to me was that most people have amnesia for this, and our purpose is to make magic normal again, to help people remember the magic they have inside so that they can reclaim their mastery. Because the thing with the magic, and this is the part that I love, is that when I reconnected with my magic, I instantly reconnected with my innate mastery, with my natural gifts that were effortless to me, that required no tool or technique or modality for me to use them. It was just this instant, effortless knowing that as soon as I had any interest or inspiration or curiosity in any direction, whether I wanted to see into someone's past life or I wanted to look into someone's energy field, just having the inspiration automatically gave me access, because now I was connected to my magic, to my mastery. No tool or technique required. And this became our purpose, to make magic normal again by helping people tune into their own unique mastery, not teaching you my ways or my modalities. I mean, I can, they are beneficial, but they're especially beneficial when you can learn them from a place of your own mastery and essence. That way you can take what works for you and shoot away what doesn't and make it your own. So this is the path that I've been on. This is why I do what I call living magic. This is why the movement is called Living Magic, because it's about awakening people to the magic of themselves. This is what people call 5D or the fifth dimension. We just call it living magic, the world of living magic. And a perfect analogy for this is if you've ever seen the old movie Hook, which is the sequel to Peter Pan. You'll remember that movie is a perfect analogy for the human condition. Because in the movie, Peter Pan is all grown up. He's no longer living in Neverland. He's married to Wendy. He has kids. He's been out of Neverland for a while. Now he has a job. And so he starts to grow up, and he starts to lose touch with his playful, imaginative, creative side, and becomes more serious and bitter and tough and all those things. So he moves off of his radio station, his magic radio station, forgetting that he did that, developing amnesia for it. And in the movie, at some point, Tinkerbell comes back to visit him and is like, Peter, we need you. And he's like, fairies aren't real. What are you doing here? And Tinkerbell is just like, haha, very funny. And he's looking at her like, I must be tripping out. Fairies aren't real. And so as the movie progresses, you end up discovering that, he gets to Neverland and he's confused. People are, he can't see things that people are seeing. And then there comes a point where a memory gets triggered and he reconnects to his playful and imaginative side. And the second he does, he remembers who he truly is. He remembers that radio station, and all his gifts turn back online, and he becomes the Pan again, and his magic turns on. And I literally get emotional talking about this, because this is literally the human condition. Most people have forgot that they are Peter Pan, or whatever the female version of that would be, Petunia Pan. I don't know. But yeah, that was the best I had in the moment. Paula Pan. But so that's a big part of the reason why I'm here. To show people the ways of living magic, to remind you how to connect to the magic within, and to remind you that your spiritual gifts are your birthright, and they are essential for your growth and ascension, and for your fun and playfulness on the planet. Because for me, honestly, there's nothing more fun than being able to connect with these otherworldly beings and to tune into things and tap into things. There's literally no difference between the me that you see here on video and the me that I am in sessions and the me that I am with my family and the me that I am with my friends. I'm always in magical channeling mode and just having fun with that stuff. I go through my ups and downs. I go through my hardships and stuff, but I'm always in magic. I love it's who I am, literally, and it's who you are. So I just wanted to share this video for whatever it might enlighten, whatever it might inspire or stimulate inside of you and help you begin to remember the truth that your soul already knows deep inside, that this is real and that it is your birthright. So now that I shared that story, I want to share a few tools with you that you can use to reignite and reconnect to your magical gifts and magical body. So step one, you're going to have to go on my YouTube. And if you're not watching this on my YouTube already, you're going to have to go on my YouTube, and I have a video called Soul Magic. You just type in David Lyon Soul Magic. It's an hour-long video where I lead you through the exact activation, actually an enhanced version of it, the exact activation that I used to reawaken my dormant gifts where I had once numbed myself. Okay, so it's going to lead you through that activation so that your engines are on. And you only need to do it once, maybe twice. Twice only if you feel called, but once or twice max. And you're immediately going to feel a difference. Now, from there, you might not know what to do from that space, but you're going to feel and perceive and sense the world differently, which means that now you're ready to access training. You're ready to learn and remember how these gifts work and how to play with them. It's a lot like learning to play the piano, right? You're tuning your piano, and you're going to learn how to play the piano, your inner piano again, and realize that, okay, when I press this key, it does this. When I press that key, it does that. That's a lot what the training is like. So it does take practice. It does take a certain level of devotion, but it's everything. It's who you are. I don't see why anyone would not do it, to be honest, but I'm biased. So step one, check out Soul Magic on my YouTube channel, and then just go through my YouTube channel and my IGTV, and you're going to see, just check the title of the videos. I've literally created a whole mystic library of spiritual gift content for the last 8 years of all kinds of subtleties and tools and techniques of really genuinely powerful things that you can use to learn for free. You know, it's just out there. So you have all the teachings there, if that interests you. And if you want to take it one step further and you want to really dive in and have full-on intensive training because you know that this is your calling and you want to dive into it, go on my website, www.livingmagic.life, and you're going to see that there's a training there called Opening to Channel with myself and Thoth and the other light leaders. That is a 7-day immersive training where it's designed to do 3 hours a day for 7 days, although you can do it at whatever pace you want. But for 7 days, you're literally going to learn everything you need to learn about your spiritual gifts. I'm going to give you the activations. I'm going to teach you the subtleties. You're going to get the practice, the exercises. You're going to receive support. You have infinite support because when you join, you also get access to the Light Leader community, which is a Facebook group. So any questions that come up, you have my infinite support and you have the group's infinite support, because I really want you to learn these things if that's your passion and excitement. So if you want to do things that route, you can. It's called Opening to Channel. Check it out. And I hope this serves you. I hope this helps you and at least brings you a greater awareness to what's possible for you in your life if this is something you've been feeling called towards. And also just so you know that whether or not you were born very psychically attuned or not, it's your birthright, it's natural for you, it's easy for you, and it will enhance everything you do. Whether you're a hypnotist, a life coach, a pianist, a cook, it will enhance everything because it'll give you more access to the channeling state, which is the state where you can just access an effortless flow of wisdom, creativity, intelligence, and guidance at will. And that is precious. All right, so I hope this video was helpful and insightful for you. If it was, please go ahead and share it so that others can benefit from this message. And if you have any questions and comments, go ahead and leave them down below. And as always, I love and appreciate you guys. Thank you.